Get out your Goodreads because I'm about to add a bunch of books to your TBR. Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. My name is Brianna and this is For a Pause in a Book. I make bookish videos over here on my little corner of the internet, so if that's something that you're interested in, make sure to hit that subscribe button down below. Today it is time to talk about some anticipated reads for April, May, and June. I always do these in like fiscal quarters, so we're looking at Q2 here, and I have a bunch of books. I have 16 books here to talk to you about, and I'm very excited about all of them. Not all of these are books that I have necessarily pre-ordered or like will be reading immediately, but they're definitely ones on my radar. They're definitely going to be ones that I'm going to be looking out for reviews and potentially could pick up. However, there are a few on here that I've definitely already pre-ordered. I feel like Q2 and Q3 generally have the largest selection of new releases, specifically in the contemporary genres. So like romances and thrillers. Obviously, we have some queer books on here. We have Pride coming up this quarter. So there's definitely going to be like a theme here. So I'm going to be doing these in chronological order. So we're going to start off strong on April 2nd with Here We Go Again by Alison Cochrane. This is an adult sapphic contemporary romance, and this is about two women who were friends in high school and then had a falling out their senior year. However, they've kind of come back to their town. They're both teaching at their alma mater and they have to go on a road trip. They're actually going to be taking their mentor teacher on this road trip after she had been given a bad diagnosis and had only been given a couple of months to live. So they're checking off her bucket list. And obviously we're going to have some sparks, some, forced proximity. It's going to be a good time. I don't necessarily love road trip books, but I think that, like, first off, I love Alison Cochrane. She's the one that did The Charm Offensive. She's the one that did Kiss Her Once for Me. Those books have excellent mental health representation, and I know that this is going to be no different. So I definitely trust her. If there's anyone who can do a road trip book, it's probably going to be Alison. And this is a book that I'm very, very excited about. I'm pretty sure I have this one pre-ordered. Then on April 9th, we have The Familiar by Leigh Bardugo. This one scares me, but I do have this one pre-ordered. I actually have an Illumicrate exclusive coming to me that's going to be absolutely gorgeous. This one scares me because it is a historical fantasy, and those generally are not my favorite things in the world. This one takes place in the Spanish Golden Age. It does have a gothic feel to it, which again, all not necessarily buzzwords of mine, but I'm still so excited to read this. It's about this girl who has these magical abilities. She is a servant, and then her employer essentially realizes that she has these abilities and basically makes her do magic for them. Somehow I think the king gets involved, finds out about her powers. I'm not really sure. The synopsis does not give a lot away. Also coming out on April 9th is Ghost Station by S.A. Barnes. This is the same author that wrote Dead Silence, which was probably one of my favorite sci-fi horrors that I've read. It's definitely one of the ones that really cemented the idea that I love sci-fi horror. Space horror specifically is just so unsettling because your brain plays tricks on you when you are running out of oxygen, right? Something very common in space horror. And so you never know, is that thing that you're seeing out of the corner of your eye a ghost or something paranormal? Or is it just your brain playing tricks on you because you're running out of oxygen? This book is about a ship's crew who has to try to survive on this ancient abandoned planet. The synopsis says, space exploration can be lonely and isolating. Psychologist Dr. Ophelia Bray has dedicated her life to the study and prevention of ERS, a space-based condition most famous for a case that resulted in the brutal murders of 29 people. When she's assigned to a small exploration crew, she's eager to make a difference. But as they begin to establish residency on this abandoned planet, it becomes clear that the crew is hiding something. It's all of the synopsis I'm going to read because I don't want to get spoiled, but sounds really, really good. I actually just got the audio arc of this literally yesterday, so I'm very excited to pick it up. Might be doing that before April 9th happens. Also on April 9th, so RIP my bank account, we have Dragon Fruit by Makia Lucier. This is a romantic fantasy is how Goodreads is calling it. So I don't know if that's actually going to be a romantasy or if it's just a fantasy that might have a romantic subplot. I don't know. We'll see. But Makia Lucier is the person who wrote Year of the Reaper, which I really, really loved. I read that a couple of years ago, and so I'm very excited about this author's new release. This is going to be the April selection for Not Your Mom's Boozy Book Club, so we'll be reading it later in the month, so that way everybody's copies can come in. But this is based on the Pacific Island mythology. Basically, the egg of this sea dragon can undo a person's greatest sorrow, but every wish demands a price. Our main character's father has stolen this egg in order to cure an illness. But this egg was actually meant for the princess, and because of that, our main character has to live a life of exile. I'm really excited about this book. It sounds like it's going to have a lot of like political intrigue, a little bit of backstabbing maybe, and then also a little bit of a romance. This has a matriarchal society, which is something that I love in fantasy. Yeah, I'm excited to read this one. I'm also really excited to talk about this one with Cal, because Cal and I both really loved Year of the Reaper, and so that's kind of what spurred this as a buddy read. And then on April 30th, we have Truly, Madly, Deeply by Alexandra Bellefleur. This is another adult romance, and this also will be a Not Your Mom's Boozy Book Club. We're going to be reading this one in May. And this is a Grumpy Sunshine romance. It is a lovelorn romance novelist and a divorce lawyer. So like, could not be more of an opposites attract situation. This lawyer has sworn off relationships, and then we have a romance novelist who is just, you know, in love. They agree to co-host a podcast where they are giving advice to their viewers. Our main character is seen as an expert in relationships, right? She's a romance author, but she feels like such an imposter because she doesn't think that she's actually an expert. Her parents are separating after years of marriage. She caught her fiance cheating on her, and because of that, her entire view on love has been shaken. So when she agrees to do this podcast with this divorce lawyer who has sworn off love, there's going to be so much bickering and fighting back and forth, but like also he's hot. This book does have queer representation despite it having a straight passing relationship, so I'm really excited to see what that queer representation is going to be. And Alexandra Bellefleur has almost never steered me wrong. I've given one book of hers 3 stars. Everything else has been 5 stars. So I have high hopes for this one. Moving into May, on May 7th, we have Lore Olympus Volume 6. This is the continuation of Lore Olympus. I can't really talk about what this is because it's Volume 6, right? But in general, it is a Hades and Persephone graphic novel. The artwork is absolutely stunning. It's beautiful. There's a lot of deep discussions in this story. There's a lot of conversation about consent and about like past abuse and working through that abuse with a partner and like standing up for yourself. And it's so adorable and precious, and I love this graphic novel series. I've given almost every single one of them at least 4 stars. The last one was kind of like a little bit laggy, kind of slogged a bit, but overall, absolutely loved it. Then on May 14th, we have the first of 2 Christina Lauren books. We have The Paradise Problem, and this is a fake marriage, second chance romance, and that scares me a little bit. However, like, I don't know, Christina Lauren is so hit or miss for me when it comes to their romance books. Sometimes I absolutely love them when they hit them out of the park, but then sometimes it's just like, oof, that was a miss. So we'll see what happens. I really enjoyed True Love Experiment, which I think was their last one. I don't know, I'm getting them mixed up at this point. I've read so many Christina Lauren books, but I think that was their most recent one. But this is about a man who is the heir to like a grocery store fortune. His grandfather is like a billionaire, I don't know, something. He's very rich. And he was married in college, but when they graduated, they kind of went their separate ways. Our female main character is a like hipster artist, free spirit kind of person. So again, another opposites attract situation. However, in his grandfather's will, he said that he had to be married for 5 years in order to get his inheritance. And we're coming up on that 5-year date, and his family is like, hey, we never met your wife. We haven't seen her. We should, you know, have her come over. Let's do a reunion kind of thing. And he's like, well, crap. And calls her up and is like, hey, I need you to act like my wife so I can get this money. So like, it could be a really good time. But second chance romances, especially when they were like married, like so kind of a marriage on the rocks trope, is probably one of my least favorite tropes in romance books, so I'm very hesitant about this one. I'm definitely going to be waiting on some reviews to see what people think of it before I purchase it. Also coming out on May 14th is Blood on the Tide by Katie Robert. This is the second book in her pirate romance series, and I'm scared of this one because I haven't read the first one yet. I own it, but I haven't heard the greatest of things in it. I mean, like, it sounds like it should be great, right? It's pirates, it's Katie Roberts, so it's gonna be hella queer. It should be really good.
I swear, every single motorcycle in Utah is driving down my street today.
It's Katie Robert. It should be queer. It's pirates. It should be fantastic. But I haven't heard great reviews. Everybody who's talked about it has been like, it's fine. And that's never a good thing with Katie Robert, because normally I give her books 5 stars. So I'm gonna read the first one first before I purchase this one, because I'm gonna be smart about it. But it is coming out. And then also coming out on May 14th is Blood and Fury by Tessa Graten and Justina Ireland. This is the second book in the Chaos and Flame series that I read last year and really enjoyed. It was kind of like similar to like a comp title would be Fireborn. I don't think it was done as well as Fireborn, but it's like these 2 kingdoms that are warring against each other, and like, you know, they're sworn enemies, but then one person is fated to be with another person from the other their enemy kingdom, but then also there are dragons. So there's a little bit of this like fantasy romance aspect to it. I liked the first book. I think it was done really well, and I think that like at the beginning I was like, oh yeah, this could be a potential favorite for me. It did lose a lot of steam at the end, and I think there were a lot of unanswered questions specifically in the world building, but I'm excited to see if we find out any of the answers to my questions in this sequel. It is only a duology, so this will wrap up this series nicely. So I'm excited to finish out that series. Then coming out on May 21st is probably my most anticipated read on this entire list, and that is How to Become the Dark Lord and Die Trying by Jango Exler. I trust Jango Exler with my life. I will read anything that man writes. And this is comped as Groundhog Day meets Guardians of the Galaxy. And while time loop stories can be really hit or miss for me, I trust Jango Exler with this. I think that it'll be okay. Just because I think it's going to be really funny. This is about a girl who is trying to defeat this Dark Lord, and every time she dies. And then it's a time loop, but it starts over. And like, so sometimes she makes it all the way there. She's really close. And then sometimes she dies super quickly. And then she's finally like, you know what? Screw it. If I can't beat them, be them. So she becomes the Dark Lord, and she's like, screw it, I'm gonna be evil now. And that just sounds like a great time. Also, all of Jango's books have a sapphic relationship in them, and I'm kind of hoping that this one does too. Then coming out on May 28th is Evocation by S.T. Gibson, and this is the first book in a series that's like different than the vampires that this author has done previously. And this synopsis is just everything. The devil knows your name, David Aristarchus. Could be saying that name wrong. As a teen, David was a psychic prodigy, operating under the shadow of his oppressive occultist father. Now, years after his father's death and rapidly approaching his 30th birthday, he is content with the high-powered life he's curated as a Boston attorney, moonlighting as a powerful medium for his secret society. But with power comes a price, and the devil has come to collect on an ancestral deal. It sounds so great. It's fantastic. I am a sucker for a book with a cult, or like, you know, any type of like religious hell devil stuff. That sounds really weird, and I probably shouldn't say that. I didn't mean it that way, but you know what I mean. My favorite show is Lucifer, so that, like, I hope that explains it. As I'm filming this, I'm reading an Education and Malice by this author this weekend, and so other than that, I've only read A Dowry of Blood, and I love that book. I love that book. This author knows how to craft a story. Saying that as I have read one of their books, but this sounds like a really new, interesting story. It's not in the like vampiric lore, and it does say that it's the start of a series, so that's cool. And then also coming out on May 28th is The Ride of Her Life by Jennifer Dugan, another sapphic contemporary romance that definitely going to be picking up. This book is about a big city girl who inherits a horse farm. And then the farrier that works at the farm or at the ranch, the farrier is the person that like does the horseshoes. So again, with the opposites attract. I have a trend here. Queer opposites attract. This is very much giving Alexis from Schitt's Creek, where like she comes in, she's probably going to be wearing heels and like walking through mud, and it's just going to be a good time. These types of rom-coms are like just so fun when it's kind of a fish out of water situation where you have no idea what's going on with your life. Jennifer Dugan wrote Love at First Set, which I read last year, I believe, and really enjoyed it. This is definitely one that I want to pick up this summer, specifically for Pride Month. And then coming out on June 11th, we have Not in Love by Ali Hazelwood. And you're like, Brie, you don't like Ali Hazelwood. Do you remember the absolute train wreck that was Bride. And yes, I do. But hear me out.
I'm gonna try it again.
Am I probably going to hate read this book? Potentially. But she's a food scientist. And that's what I do for a living. So, like, we finally get a STEM book where, like, it's me. It's my job. We'll see how well it's done. I don't know. Like, I have very little hope or expectations for this book, but I just kind of want to read it as a fun time. So we'll see what happens. And now we have the planes. First we had the motorcycles, now we have the planes. Everything is so loud today. This is about a woman who is a biotech engineer, and she is working at a firm. She has a really good job. She's got very stable. Her life is stable, which is something she did not have in her past. And then there's a hostile takeover from another company, and with it, a very attractive man. This is definitely going to be a forbidden love, a secret affair, because they're not supposed to be in love, because they're like literally competing for either the same job or like the same company. I don't really know. I don't think it's going to be fantastic, but we'll see. Maybe. It might be. Then on June 18th, we have Middle of the Night by Riley Sager. I've read every single one of Riley's books. Some with great success and some that were not at all. But here we are again. This will likely be a Boozy Book Club pick for July. If I had to guess, it's not confirmed, but if I had to guess. And this is actually the first book that Riley has written that has a male main character. Most of his, like every single one of his main characters to begin with have been female. So this is the first time he's writing a male main character, which I think is an interesting choice. We'll see what happens. And this is about a man who, as a child, his best friend was basically taken out of their yard. They were having a little like camping trip in their backyard, and he was taken away in the middle of the night. 30 years later, our main character has returned to his childhood home, and there are some disturbing things that are happening. Someone seems to be roaming the neighborhood late at night, wandering about. And there's signs of Billy, our kid who disappeared. There's signs of Billy's presence in the neighborhood. I think that this is going to be a book that kind of verges into the horror elements that Riley doesn't necessarily, I don't necessarily love when he does that, but we're gonna try it. And then lastly, we have two books coming out on June 25th. The first one is a novel love story by Ashley Poston. This is the same author that wrote The 7-Year Slip and The Dead Romantics, both of which I loved. And I love the way that Ashley kind of writes her romances in a very contemporary style, but there's always like a paranormal twist to it, or just something that's like not exactly real world. So in The 7-Year Slip, it was where this apartment that she lived kind of like slipped back in time 7 years, and so like when she walked out of the house it was present day, but when she was in the house it was 7 years before. And then The Dead Romantics was literally like a romance with a ghost or like a spirit. She thought she could see spirits. And this one is no different. It's about a woman who is going to this book retreat with some friends, but along the way, I think her car breaks down, and she like stops at this town that actually ends up being the like exact town of one of her romance books that she loves, or one of the series that she loves. And it's not like it's like the town. No, it is the town with the same characters and stuff like that. So it's almost as if she's been transported into her favorite book. And you know, it kind of like gives a whole new meaning to the word book boyfriend, if you know what I mean. And then lastly, also on June 25th, we have Tangled Up in You by Christina Lauren. This is their second book on this list. They're really knocking them out this time. This is part of the Meant to Be series, and it's a bunch of contemporary romance stories that are like with fairy tale like inspiration, and they're all written by different authors. So the first one is If the Shoe Fits. That one's by Julie Murphy. It's actually the only one in this series that I've read, but we also have Jasmine Guillory, who wrote by the book, and then there was a Little Mermaid one, but I don't remember who wrote that one. And this one is Rapunzel, or Tangled. And I don't think I've ever read a romance retelling with Rapunzel. So this could be really, really interesting and fun. I don't know a lot about it. I don't really want to know a lot about it. I mean, it's a Rapunzel retelling set in a contemporary world. It sounds like it could be fun. Those are the books that I am excited for. They're on my radar for the next couple of months. Let me know a new release that you are really excited for. I know that I've probably missed a bunch of them. And if you're not feeling chatty, do a heart emoji, because we have a lot of romances on this list. That's all I have for you today. If you're new here and you have not yet subscribed, there's a little button that you can do so down below the video. If you'd like to hang out with me more, the links to my Instagram, Goodreads, Twitter, and my Patreon are linked in the description below. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye!